It's shells and cheese. But Saag Paneer is a sort of classic Indian dish with really well cooked down onions and lots of chopped spinach and some yogurt and other stuff. That's my oven just coming up to temp to bake this. But I've got a few other tricks that I'm doing here, and I'll show you guys what I've been up to. So number one thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and chop some spinach here, because I've learned the hard way that if you don't chop your spinach at least a little bit, the texture of your Saag Paneer could be a little weird. So I'm just going to run a knife through this real quick. Usually I make Saag Paneer a lot actually with like kale and sometimes darker leafier greens, and in that case I'll even use like a stick blender when I get it into the pan to take the texture down a little bit so it's a little more creamy. Chopped spinach is, this is already pretty well broken up, but just running a knife through it will make sure it is nice and creamy. Because I'm putting this in with pasta and lots of cheese. But my big hack with the cheese is to use a sodium citrate sauce. So rather than having a roux-based cheese sauce, I used no flour to build this sauce, and instead used sodium citrate, which is the salt of citric acid. And sodium citrate acts as what's called a chelator. So what makes cheese get kind of grainy if you put it into a sauce is the fact that the calcium comes out of solution. And when the calcium comes out of solution, it squeezes causes all the proteins to bind together, which squeezes out the fat and the water in the cheese emulsion. And that gives you grainy cheese sauce. So if you add this white powder, this sodium citrate, it's just, like I said, the salt of citric acid. What it does is it binds up all that calcium, which allows you to make literally any cheese and any liquid into nacho cheese sauce. So I've got a pretty fancy version of nacho cheese sauce over here on the stove. I'm going to point you guys at the more interesting end of what I'm doing here. So I'll get you turned around and point you at my stove. Okay, so here I've got onion, garlic, ginger mixture cooked down with a bunch of turmeric and chili powder and cumin and fenugreek. Those are all your standard Indian spices. Back here I've got my nacho cheese sauce. So this has some smoked pepper jack and some Gouda and some Gruyere, along with sherry, which is a sweet oxidized wine, and a little bit of milk. And so this will be my cheesy base. I've got some beach mushrooms here that I cooked off as well, and I've got a bunch of paneer. So this is the sort of classic Saag Paneer. It's a relatively flavorless cheese, but it browns up really nicely, and it's going to add some good texture to the baked pasta dish. So I'm just going to finish putting together my my saag here. So let me bring this up to heat and do that. I may also, let's see, how long do my shells take to cook? 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, let's cook our shells. Oops, I don't even have a whole box of shells. I don't have half a box of shells. Yeah. Well, cook, here. Ooh, and because it's Friday, I'm gonna have myself a beer. This is from Sudworks Brewing in Davis, which was my probably most frequented brewery I went to during grad school. And they make some really nice functional beers. This is like their hoppy lager with Simcoe, Eldorado, and Cascade, and it's a really nice beer. Oh yeah. Oh, yum. Yeah, not too bitter. Just a really nice, light, drinkable beer. Not too much alcohol, so I can have, I can have two without having a hangover, which is appreciated. Okay. Sorry, I'm just navigating my dish rack here for a second, trying to get my pirate spatula. I love this thing. It's a bowl scraper, but I call it my pirate spatula, or, you know, Alibaba, blade of Alibaba, something like that. A tulwar, I think that was kind of sword that looked like this. But it's just really nice for cooking because you can really scrape a bowl pretty well, and it's pretty heat resistant. So, oh right, I should set a timer for my pasta here. So I'm gonna cook the pasta just a little bit to make sure it doesn't get totally overdone in the oven, because I'm gonna bake this probably for not that long, but like, you know, 20-ish, 30 minutes, something like that, just to make sure all of the stuff gets really gooey and wonderful. Okay, so here's my sweated out onions, garlic, ginger, and all my spices. I'm gonna go ahead and just dump my spinach that's been chopped in here. And get that integrated. And now we're going to go ahead and put a nice slug of heavy cream and maybe a nice big spoonful of yogurt or labneh in here. Labneh is a yogurt cheese. But I want to really add some depth and some richness to this. Okay. So I got some heavy cream here. I'll shake, and we'll just douse this over the top. This is a dairy-heavy meal, but you could definitely make this vegan fairly easily. I make Saag Paneer vegan with like cashew cream and coconut butter. And it really blends a nice richness to it, or maybe with a little bit of oat milk or something like that, just to help kind of get the liquid moving. So it's not enough richness yet, so I'm going to definitely add some big spoonfuls of yogurt here as well. Okay, so it's big spoonfuls of our labneh. Stuff is great, just on toast with eggs in the morning or something like that. It's nice. Or just put a little olive oil on it, salt and olive oil. Dip some flatbread in it. Put some za'atar, Middle Eastern spice mix on there. Really nice stuff. So I'm just going to cook this down for a minute or two here. Get it nicely integrated. I'll do a taste test too, see if I want to add any more spices. Often I will sort of start with a base of fenugreek and cumin and some sambal powder, which has coriander and fenugreek and other sort of Indian spices in it, and lots of turmeric powder as well. And then to finish, I'll add a little bit of garam masala, because I like that spice mixture, and I think it brings a really nice spice and depth to this dish. But then I'm going to stir the whole thing together with pasta and bake it. Because I like to bastardize dishes and do weird things, because, you know, why not? But it is a fairly legit saag paneer. I'm just going to be making it in a non-traditional way once the saag is done. the real trick to a good Indian saag, which is just cooked down spinach, is to really, really caramelize your onions fully. That's the key to making things taste good. Caramelized onions are pretty much the key to making everything taste good, quite honestly. All right. Let's see how this is doing. We'll probably have to add some salt since I really didn't add any salt earlier. Maybe a little bit to the onions, but oh, it's pretty good. So I think there's a little bit more of my sambar, not sambal, sambar powder. Just a little bit more. That spice. Some more garam masala, too. Put just a tiny bit of water back in here, and drained all the water out of the spinach. Now I want there to be just a little bit of liquid. Nice healthy pinch of salt. But the other thing to remember is my cheese sauce is fairly salty, and I'm going to be putting lots of that in here. And the cheese sauce I made has Gruyere, which is nice and salty, and it has this smoked jack, which will add a really nice background kind of smoky element to this. And I made this dish because we had a friend coming over she's not fully vegetarian, but she's trying to eat more vegetarian. And I was like, well, what can I make that'll be really satisfying, but not have any meat in it? And I was like, well, my partner wants lots of vegetables, and I always want to add lots of mushrooms to things. So this seemed like kind of a good in-between dish where I could get lots of mushrooms, veggies, cheese, all the things involved in what I think make good food. So. Yum. Just adjusting my seasonings as I go here. The other thing I should probably do, come back in with a good amount of cumin. I think cumin will kind of be one of the seasonings that helps me bridge the fact that I'm making an Indian vegetable dish and mixing it with one of the richest American dishes that are out there. So they're a nice vegetable mixture here. Kill the heat on that so I don't burn anything accidentally. Okay. Got my little mushies back here. Those are good. I'm just waiting for the pasta to be done here. Okay, so I'm gonna pull my pasta here. Give it just about 9.5 minutes in the pan. Okay. Now, we are ready to assemble. So, I'm going to put you guys back at the board here. So, I'll bring you around. Okay, so here's our dish of cooked shells, steamy and hot. Good time to try to mix stuff in there. So, I'm going to go in with a nice big bowl of well caramelized paneer cubes. Okay, we're gonna dump in all these nicely caramelized beech mushrooms. These are, I guess, are mostly beech and then a little bit of king trumpet as well. I got these mushrooms from Mycopia Mushrooms out in Sebastopol, one of my favorite local mushroom farms. They do great sales on Fridays. You get a really good deal if you go by the farm on a Friday. Okay, so I'll start mixing these things in. Go ahead, put maybe not all of the spinach mixture in, but like a good amount of it. Start getting this stuff integrated. And then I'm also going to come over and pour over a good amount of this sodium citrate cheese sauce. Yeah, that's the stuff. Like I said, with that sodium citrate sauce, you can really turn literally any cheese and liquid combination into nacho cheese sauce. I've done goat cheese and rosé, turn that into nacho cheese sauce. I've done blue cheese and Guinness and turned that into nacho cheese sauce. I mean, your imagination becomes a limiting factor, not what you can actually do. So for anyone out there who loves nacho cheese sauce like I do, I would highly recommend buying some sodium citrate online. Make sure if you're buying sodium citrate though, that you don't get one that's flavored, because they do sell it as a nutritional supplement, and usually they flavor it with gross fruit flavors. You don't want that if you're going to use it for cooking. You just want plain sodium citrate. If you look at like a package of American cheese, they use a very similar thing called potassium. What is it? I don't know. It's a slightly different compound, but the compound has the exact same effect. It's what they use to make processed cheese. So it's the same inherent process, which I think is pretty cool. And this whole thing stirred together, and then I'm gonna taste it too, which is really important. Gotta remember to taste your food. And then I'll dump this thing in the oven. But I think maybe before I put it in the oven, and well, I'll taste test it first, and then I'll figure out if it needs anything. But I have at least an idea of something else I'd like to do. Yum. Yep. Cheese, spinach, pasta, mushrooms. Yeah, all those things. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead, just pour on a little bit more cheese sauce right on the top. Because, you know, it's mac and cheese. Gotta have it really nice and cheesy, yeah? Yeah. So, the other thing I'll do is probably come in with just a little bit of Parmesan on top for just that little bit of extra saltiness. So put a layer, quick dusting of Parmesan up on top. Just a little extra umami, all that good stuff. And then I go do some panko breadcrumbs, just because everyone likes that crusty baked top on mac and cheese. So we'll make sure we have at least a little bit of that textural crunch. And panko is a great way to get really nice texture on top of a dish. So, because this is Saag Paneer, I will also give this just a tiny dusting of a little more garam masala. And give this just a little, very light drizzle with some olive oil to help those breadcrumbs brown up. So, there you have it. That is my Saag Paneer shells and cheese with mushrooms. You know, why not mess around? Why not do something interesting? I will post a picture of what this looks like when it's finished on Instagram. But I'll point you guys at the oven so you can see it go in. Okay, I got my oven about 375. I'm gonna put this down in there and give that about 25 minutes or so. So there's the rest of my Saag Paneer. I'll do something with that later. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me, Gordon, Fascinated by Fungi. If you want to learn more from me, you can check out my website. I've got cool t-shirts like this one. You can follow me on Instagram, on YouTube here. I'm on TikTok, Pinterest, all the things. I appreciate you guys watching and paying attention, so thanks for being here and have a good one. Bye.